So here's some background on commitments. You have every right to not make commitments and don't feel somewhat pressured into making a commitment, but you need to recognize that not making a commitment is a commitment not to do something. It's still a form of commitment. At the core, what you're doing when you don't make a commitment is avoiding the opportunity to deepen trust and build rapport between you and the person you're committing to. So just be mindful of that. So commitments are either unilateral or bilateral. A unilateral commitment is I will do something, period. Bilateral is if you do something, then I will do something. So we'll give you a couple of quick examples to make this more clear. You can also make commitments to yourself. These are very powerful commitments because they enhance your self-esteem and your own self-awareness, and they support you to be the man you want to be. So deciding or pretending not to make a commitment to yourself is still avoiding making a commitment to yourself. So I'll brush my teeth every night is a commitment. Oh, I don't need to worry about it. Then okay, talk to your dentist in a year from now. No one else is involved when you're making a commitment to yourself. Sometimes we use commitments to set boundaries with other people. For example, we will say, I will no longer let my boss pressure me into working late anymore. You make that commitment to the rest of your team. The next time you complain about your boss pushing you around, making you work late, they can call you on your commitment that you made. So it's a declaration of your intention, which is a promise to yourself. You can also make a commitment that says, I'll no longer smoke cigarettes. And again, that's a commitment that you can make for yourself to set a boundary between you and nicotine. Thank you. This next group of segments is going to be about how we can help you to be successful in keeping your agreements. The first concept that we're going to pass on is about commitments, and they're either unilateral commitments or they're bilateral commitments. Unilateral commitments is when you yourself make a promise to somebody else. Hey, I will stop and pick up bread on the way home. That is a unilateral commitment. Someone asks you, will you stop and pick up bread on the way home? And you say yes. That's a unilateral commitment. The other person doesn't have to perform anything in order to make this commitment operative. The other type of commitment is a bilateral commitment, which is something like this. If I make dinner while you're driving home, will you stop and get some bread for us? And that person says, yeah, okay, or no, I don't want bread, I'll make my own dinner or whatever. But there's a definite agreement by two parties to do two different things in order to create one agreement. And it's important to keep the distinction separate because a lot of times we find men think that they are saying, I'll think about something, where the other person says, you made an agreement. And what the way it goes in real life is, will you do this? And the person saying, yes, I understand. And the other person thinks, yes, you've agreed. So that's a key point to make sure that you are aware of. So we talked about the need to understand unilateral agreements, and you might wonder why. And the truth is that most people who make unilateral agreements are actually making covert bilateral agreements, but it's just not something that they have admitted. Therefore, it's a risk. It's a danger zone in relationship. It's a danger zone in trust. So here's an example of a hidden agenda in a unilateral agreement. You're on a men's team, you're with other men, you say to yourself, if I bring up this about this guy, then he's going to bring out that regarding me. So I won't speak up, and I'll assume he won't speak up. And there's this little bit of an undercurrent of covertness in how the relationship is formed. The people are not speaking up because they know if they speak up, the other person will be more inclined to speak freely as well. So really what you have is a covert agreement between the two parties not to confront each other on something. This, of course, happens in relationships between men and women as well. These hidden agendas often come up as disappointments or resentments or bitterness when the relationship is not going the way the person wants. The book about No More Mr. Nice Guy addresses this really clearly, but here's an example we can probably all relate to. Guy takes a girl out for a nice dinner, takes her out to a movie, never mentions that he expects her to have sex with him when they get home. But of course, in the back of his mind, he's thinking, if I take her out for dinner and pay her way, and I take her to a movie and pay her way, she owes me. And so therefore, I'm going to get laid. So that is an example of a unilateral agreement that has a hidden agenda, that has strings attached, that is actually an unexpressed or a covert bilateral agreement. And so the point here is when you're making unilateral agreements, you need to know for sure that that's what you're actually doing, that the commitment is purely, I can't remember the word right off the top of my head, purely benefactory, unconditional, no strings attached. That's the key word. No strings attached. Bilateral means there's strings. Unilateral means there's no strings. I hope you can remember this. Thank you.